Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode on the Hodges Experience. Today we're doing another culture war episode because some things went down. For those of you that don't know, long story short, there was a fight between two high schoolers, two females in like Missouri or Kansas or something. And long story short, one of the individuals got sent to the hospital in critical condition. Last I heard, as of yesterday. To give some more details on why this is circulating around the news so much, it was a fight between a black girl and a white girl, and as our video analysis that we're going to be doing here in a second by Jeff Charles, an awful pundit. I had to look up pundit. Basically, what that means though is that he's a bad commentator. That's what that means. But if you notice, I can't really zoom in or anything, but it's also satire, so he's being facetious, whatever that word is, or whatever for the awful pundit. So, presumably he's good. He has like 78,000 followers or something like that. So, go ahead and check him out. Give him a little bit of love. Say that Phil sent him you over if you subscribe or not. And I guess he's a libertarian, chasing liberty. Personally, there's a lot of problems I find with libertarians. The initial version is that it leaves them exposed to be Trojan horsed or have their kind of objectives hijacked. So that's why, in general, I don't identify as a libertarian, even though I do actually maintain a lot of their values, like small government and stuff like that. So anyway, he made a video. Oh, by the way, if you like this kind of content, please like, subscribe, give it a thumbs up. Supports me, support the channel. Soon I will be creating a Patreon in order to post videos that get banned from YouTube or that I think will get banned from YouTube. I already have a couple of them, copyright issues, because they're music reaction videos, but like I said, this is a cultural war episode. So those probably will be going up there because of the subject matter. I'm just guessing. If he ever gets banned or kicked off here or whatever, I'm just going to upload it over there, just so you all know. Go ahead and follow me on X and Instagram, by the way, too. Phil Hodges. That should pop up. It's fairly easy. But anyway, over here on this tab, he decided to give out some thoughts between the... Oh, it's Missouri. Ah, look at that. Now we know. Some more fights on the thing between Missouri, and I got a couple minutes in. I'm like, you know what? This is good. I like a lot about what he's saying here. I agree with some, disagree with some. So we're gonna go ahead and break down some of what he said. All of it. We're gonna break down all of what he says. I don't know everything he's going to say, but I will give my analysis on Jeff Charles, who is an awful pundit, based on his own words, which is obviously satire. So we're just gonna go ahead and jump right in and see what happens.
What's up, my fellow Liberty?
Oops, I need to change the sound to my headphones. There we go. Now I should be able to hear it properly.
Chasers and noisemakers. I figured I'd make a video. What's up, my fellow Liberty chasers and noisemakers? I figured I'd make a video about this. I was tweeting about it yesterday.
What I just noticed when his head is full screen on my TV, our heads are about the same size. He's basically life size, and you're like right in my face, dude. Can you like back up for like just like a foot or something? We don't need to be that close. Like if we were standing together, like I could like poke him in the eye. So it's good though. That means I'd be able to see the detail on his face. He got that wink, little lip curl. I like the background. Is this a house or is it a green screen? Huh. Anyway, we'll keep going. Oh, by the way, taxation is theft. 100% agree, Charles. Charles, I should talk to you. 100% agree. Although a phrasing me and my libertarian friends say, me being non-libertarian, just to clarify, he's in Montana. We say all taxation is theft. Although my own personal caveat, sometimes the theft through the power of taxation is a necessary evil, which, if you ever get me on the show, we can talk about one day. I might talk about it anyway. Who knows? But let's keep going. Let's see what you have to say. Winky face.
Maybe a little bit today, but I see that the conversation's still going, so I just wanted to do a quick video to chime in on this whole thing that happened in Missouri, that fight between those two high school girls. Before I get into that, obviously, I want to remind you, hit up my Substack, become a subscriber, become a paid subscriber to get new content.
I definitely also highly recommend doing it for anybody who you like in particular, but also him. Like I said, he has 78,000 subscribers on Twitter. I don't know anything else about him, really. But go ahead and support all these kind of people because this is kind of... I got an argument with my friend the other day, heated debate, and basically we were talking about like reliable news sources. And personally, this gentleman here, Jeff Geoff, is somebody who I like getting some of my views for. Like, I am interested on his takes and opinions. It kind of shows me like a middle ground, because I also get my information from both right-leaning sources and left-leaning sources, despite what he made a comment about me on the Twitter feed. He thinks my only information I get about black people is from TV. And if that was the truth, then I mean, like, it might be a problem in the media then, don't you think? I'm being indoctrinated. But, you know, just to throw that out there. But like I said, go ahead, subscribe to him if you like his kind of content. At least do all the free stuff. And do it for me too, by the way. Like, subscribe, and thumbs up, and all that kind of stuff. I appreciate it. And statistically, he will as well.
I am going to be putting more stuff behind the paywall, probably starting today. So become a subscriber. You can be monthly, annual.
Today being March 14th, 2024, by the way.
It's only like $7 for a month if you do the monthly option, and $50 for the year. I appreciate all of the support. So let's just go into all of this, right? So
obviously, you do the quick math, the $50 a year is cheaper. But if you can't afford it, you can't afford a flat fee of $50, save up until you can. Or you could pay what he said, like $7.99. So we're not totally sure on what the actual price is, but that's probably a pretty good guess. Maybe rounded it to $8 just for nice zeros or something. But
so I'm sure a lot of you already saw the video, you know, of the two girls fighting, one black, one white, and it looks like it was a mutual combat type of situation.
Agreed. That's one of the most important things. If you go back and check my Twitter feed, I get into a discussion / heated debate with one person in particular. I'll point them out here in a little bit. And they kept trying to the part I did see somewhere in here about mentioning self-defense. And no, it's not. It's mutual combat. They both agree to engage essentially at the exact same time. For an example, to kind of wrap all that up in a nutshell real fast. I read the story saw the videos also, but there is this news article about these like 10 to 12-year-olds or something like that basically created a fight club in their local park. Like out in the open, everybody was seeing it. The cops were called, and basically the cops showed up, and long story short, they ended up saying was that there's nothing they could do to break it up as long as it doesn't go too far. Because fighting, in fact, is allowed. It's not illegal to fight. It's illegal to kill or murder or manslaughter, which that probably would have been the scenario that applies here. Not necessarily a crime of passion, but that's probably some line of defense her lawyer takes if she ends up getting one, the black girl, because she won the fight. But she took it too far. And under those kind of rules and laws, there are laws. You are not, like, you can beat somebody up, but you cannot purposely, like, destroy their lives. Otherwise, things like UFC and boxing would also be illegal. Those things are not illegal because America accepts the fact that there are, agreed combative situations. So this particular one was taken too far, but most definitely they were both agreed upon combatants. One was not blindsided, attacked, or jumped, or anything like that. They both agreed to mutual combat. Combat possibly ending in death, just to clarify, which is why you should walk away, if possible.
It wasn't just somebody attacking somebody out of nowhere. But obviously it got out of hand, and for those who don't like seeing very graphic violence, I would not recommend watching the video. Just I'll kind of describe what happened. The two girls fought, and the black girl ended up getting the upper hand. And even when it was clear that she had beaten the white girl in the fight, like she was defeated, she started banging her head against the pavement, and it was pretty serious. I mean, you can.
Yeah, to put a little bit more emphasis on that. The white girl was basically already knocked unconscious. Not quite unconscious, but she was in that daze. Her arms, like her hands are open, arched to the side, not defending herself or anything like that. And then not just banged, the winner, the black girl, picked up her head and slammed it, like in a video game, like when you're killing a zombie or something like that. It is quite the visual. So I would agree with him. If you're not good at stomaching violence and stuff, you don't need to see it. Just go watch some movie or something where people get their head slammed to the ground. It sucks.
And see, after everybody was pulled off, you know, the white girl was on the ground and she was seizing up. It was really just
Seizuring. Like, there's clear, like, you don't seizure, you don't just seize up. That's not quite the right word, but she was seizuring, which means that's indicative of brain damage. And that's partly why she's, last I heard, was in the hospital under critical condition. So even if she lives, she could be, say, retarded for the rest of her life because of what the other girl did. So that's not quite the same level of punishment as actual killing, but it's right on that cusp if you ruin somebody's entire life, especially when they're 15 years old, even if you are 15 yourself. It's a bad news bears situation kind of all the way around.
disturbing to watch. And I know that I'm not sure what her condition is like now, but I know it's serious. I'm not sure if her life is in danger or if she could possibly pass away, hopefully.
Yes, her life is most obviously in danger because she's in critical condition, seizuring after having her head brutally slammed on the ground. Charles, you slipped up on there. You're being too modest. You want to call it as it is? Call it as it is. She's in the hospital under critical condition. Of course, obviously, her life is in danger of being lost. Like, minimum. Let alone, again, possible paralysis, partial or fully, or retardation, or whatever, brain dead. Possibly if she can't recover at all, like, whatever prospect this girl may have had, like, sports, relationships, all of that would just be gone in an instant. So, the girl most definitely is in critical condition. Don't be modest.
Not, but it was a disturbing. It was definitely a disturbing display. Now, here's where I'm coming from on this. There's a few different things that I want to cover. So,
Go.
I'll try to make this as short as I can. Now, this wasn't just like a regular fight. I mean, we've all seen fights when we were kids. I saw them coming up in school and even outside of school and even between adults. And this was not a case of self-defense. Some people have claimed that this wasn't self-defense. This was a fight. This was a fight that was obviously agreed upon between both parties. However, this wasn't self-defense.
And to also throw, this is around the spot that I paused. I don't know exactly when I decided to react to the rest of it, but this is about it. Because I would also like to reference one other thing, too, in this. Since we only have a clip, we don't have the full context yet. Nothing has come out, no facts, no figures, no testimony, no other videos besides the fight itself. We don't know if this is building up over weeks or years. Say, bullying of some type. Like, who knows? Maybe the white girl was super bullying her in some way, fashion that I'm not aware of. And the black girl confronted her, and then they both agreed to mutual combat. Maybe. Or maybe it was vice versa. Maybe the black girl was the one harassing her, and she decided to confront the black girl, and then they end up in mutual combat. Like, we don't know the context. We don't know. We know something happened, escalated, that where two people got so angry they fought, and one girl lost control. Not saying the other one couldn't, but there's a good chance she may have as well. But they something escalated. They both got upset, and then they engaged each other in combat. Like, we don't know why, though. We don't know what led up to there. And usually under these kind of things, particularly when it comes to court cases and stuff, context is key. And we don't have any of that yet. Just to throw that out there, as of the day I mentioned earlier. And the time, 11. It's 11 a.m. right now. 11:09.
I mean, if you get to the point where you've already beaten your opponent and you start slamming their head into the ground, you're no longer defending yourself. You're just going overboard. I describe it as like if somebody's coming at you with a knife and you carry a firearm and you shoot them, they're down on the ground, not a threat, and you continue to shoot them. Yeah, that it stops being self-defense at that point. And in a lot of states, you'll get convicted. Not in all of them, but it really depends on the situation. And I know the black girl was taken into custody. I'm not sure if they're going to charge her with anything.
They did. You're a little bit slow on this. By the time I saw this video, I didn't watch it yesterday when it came out or whatever. But by the time he had posted this, it was like she was under arrest on charges of assault. I don't know if they're going to go forward exactly with him. Maybe that's what he's talking about. But no, they got her on assault. So a little bit delayed on that one, and or maybe that's just that kind of tapping down the. Who knows? Maybe he's doing it on purpose to try and keep this as a nice. I like how the contrast is black and white. See what he did there. And just trying to keep it simple and stuff. Hey, give me 1 second. Let me take this phone call. Okay, sorry about that little weird break in there. I had a important phone call I had to take. So long story short, I forgot where I was because of the phone call. So I'm gonna rewind it just a click, and I'm gonna pick up from where we left off.
The black girl was taken into custody. I'm not sure if they're going to charge her with anything, or how that whole thing is worked out. I'll probably keep up with it. So to me, I can't justify it, no matter what. I mean, you don't just continue to go after you've already beaten your opponent, especially if you're doing something that could cause them to lose their life or to have life-altering injuries, things like that.
Agreed. See, that's some common ground right there. Like, I 100% agree with that.
Now, there have been some people pointing out, oh, well, it was a fight and that can happen. The white girl was an active participant, and she shouldn't have gotten to that fight if she didn't want to risk getting beaten up. You know what? I agree. I fully agree with that. Some people are saying that, indicating that people shouldn't be condemning what the black girl did. Others aren't. Others are just acknowledging that that's what happens. But yeah, it is true. I mean, I know Maj Toure was saying that. Sonny Johnson was saying that. And I do agree.
I don't know who those people are, but I'll trust him.
That's why you avoid getting into fights. I don't care how big your pride is. I don't care how angry you are. I don't care if you really think you can beat your opponent. You can always get surprised and something could happen.
For an example, even if it's totally innocent and the fight lasts for a split second. Let's say me and Charles decide to engage in... No, we get upset at each other for whatever reason. At a bar or something. And we decide to engage each other in mutual combat. And he catches me off guard or something like that. Surprises me, so to speak. In a fair way. Not in a jumping you from behind kind of way or something. He just roughly got the upper hand. His first blow was effective, for an example. And he just uppercuts me. Basically knocks me out with that one hit. But I fall and hit my head on the floor, on the ground, and then die. Even though we agreed, you are still getting charged with manslaughter. A life has been snuffed out, regardless of the circumstances. Somebody's going to need to but somebody's going to have to receive some type of consequence, and that will be you. In my example, it would be him. He looked bigger than me, so I just assumed he'd be able to beat me. In that case, I guess I would have got lucky. So even if you get lucky and can win the fight in just a couple of seconds, if they fall and hit their head or something and create damage, like you will be on the hook. You're liable. So even if you think you can win or something, you in general should be walking away. You should really only be fighting legally. You should really only be fighting if, essentially, metaphorically speaking, or literally, your back is to the wall and you don't really have another option. Like that's the only way you can claim self-defense. And if he hasn't already mentioned it, he will, I think, here in a second. Where, well, yeah, he just mentioned it. That's why it's in my head. Where once you identify yourself as the winner, or once you clearly say have control of the situation, your job is to now get yourself out of the situation, not continue to beat your opponent in whatever manner that led to the situation that the combatants find themselves in.
Even if it's not intentional, people die in fights all the time. Now, I think in most fights, people just walk away with some bruises, black eye, broken nose, whatever. But in some cases, you can get seriously hurt, which is why you shouldn't be fighting. I mean, that's just the way it is. If you got to defend yourself, that's different. You got to defend yourself. But if you have a chance to get out of it, then you get out of it. This does in no way justifies what the black girl did in going overboard. I think it was ridiculous, and she probably will get some type of consequence for it. I don't know what would be applicable in this case. I don't know Missouri law, but I don't agree that this was just like a regular fight that kids get into.
I also agree with him that she will receive a consequence. I also don't know Missouri law or any of those kind of things. But I would like you to drop a comment down below that if essentially you were judge, jury, and executioner, although technically this is just a fight, as long as nobody dies, execution is kind of off the table, right? But, sticking with the metaphor, if you're judge, jury, and executioner, what consequences would you give the winner of the fight, regardless of their race? Let's say the white girl got on top and slammed the other girl's head, and now she was in the hospital. Regardless of the race, right? Because justice is blind, or is supposed to be. What is the consequence for a 15-year-old? We'll be a little bit specific. For a 15-year-old girl slamming the head and sending to the hospital or slamming the head of another 15-year-old girl on the ground and sending her to the hospital in critical condition. Just based on that exact parameter, regardless of the race and all that kind of stuff. And weight classes, if you noticed. What would be your consequence? What would you decide? Let me know.
I've seen a bunch of those. I've seen some that have gone overboard too. So to me, both things can be true at the same time.
Something else I mentioned in my YouTube comments that where multiple things can be, not YouTube, X Factor? What am I doing? Twitter. On the Twitter /X debates I got into people. Like I mentioned two things can be true at the time because we end up talking about culture because that's what my main point on this is, which we'll get to here in a second, I think. Because we have a long way to go and I'm talking a lot because I'm pretty in touch with my feminine side today, apparently, so.
That girl went overboard, and the white girl shouldn't have been squaring up in the first place. Like, if it's going to get to that level, you try to de-escalate. I mean...
Well, to be fair, you don't know it's going to get to that level, but as soon as it starts to rise past a certain level, you should be just de-escalating, regardless of if you somehow know you're going to be the winner or loser.
Maj is big on de-escalation, so I know he agrees with that. I saw what he was tweeting. But to me, it's just yet another reason why it's important to make sure that you're doing everything you can to avoid violence. I mean, it's just that's just the way it is. And for me, the only way violence is acceptable is if you actually are defending yourself.
In general, I would agree, but there are also times where violence is necessary outside of self-defense. For an example, stopping the Nazis, right? That's war. That's an offensive thing. That's not defensive. That's you actively interfering in somebody else's plan to commit genocide, right? You're interfering. So it's not exactly self-defense. But there are times outside that where violence is maybe not the best, but a viable solution.
So that was my first point. But the second point is really what I wanted to touch on here. The race angle. So
good, let's go on it, because I have my opinions on the race angle. And basically, to nutshell it now before he goes too far into whatever it is he's going to say, the race itself isn't the issue. It's the culture that tends to be connected to the races and the type of culture that the races adopt and indoctrinate into their daily lives. Just to pre-emphasize some of the stuff that I think I'm going to end up saying to counter some of his points on this. Or to agree with him. Who knows? Maybe he's going to say the same thing I am. Only one way to find out. Thanks for tuning in this far, by the way. I appreciate it. Helps me on my YouTube and stuff like that. And again, if you like this kind of content, please like, subscribe, support, and leave a comment down below. I appreciate that. Let's keep going, though. We got a long way to go.
To me, when I logged on yesterday, and you might have seen me tweet this, I saw people alluding to it, but I didn't really know what happened. But I figured there was another video that was going around, pumped up by some influencers on the right who do these things specifically to...
Whoop, stop. Wait, slow down there, Charles. Your bias just showed up right there. Because I'll go back a little bit. I'm glad that button works. You immediately assume that people on the right were doing it for nefarious reasons without actually doing the research to determine who's doing it and why. That's probably the awful part of the awful pundit, right? You don't always do your research or something. Ooh, I got a Facebook message. Who's it from? Oh, okay, never mind. Let's keep going.
A video that was going around, pumped up by some influencers on the right who do these things specifically to portray black people as violent, as if most of us are just waiting to beat somebody up or shoot somebody or kill somebody. And so I was like,
well, no, you're not just saying on waiting for it. You're not like a lion in a bush hunting a zebra. But when violence does come up, as I mentioned in my YouTube post, Twitter posts, whatever. is that the sub-black culture and the that is a part and small aspect, if you will, of American culture is more likely prone for violence, right? So they're not just sitting there just waiting to punch people in the face, but they're more likely to solve whatever problem they come across with another human being with a punch to the face. That's my issue with it. That's my take, if you will, on the race side. It's a culture issue. It is not a race issue.
Like, maybe I should just log off, but I didn't because I'm a sucker for this stuff. But I mean, in this instance, I knew what
We all are.
I was getting into it. And I figured I wouldn't spend too much time on it, and I was actually pretty good. I'll pat myself on the back for that. But I watched the video, and I knew immediately what was going to happen. The two sides were going to make this about race. They weren't going to look at who was right and who was wrong. They were going to look at the skin color of the people who were involved and make the decisions based on that. And as always, I was right.
Well, kind of. You're not exactly right. You made a couple of assumptions that are actually inaccurate. I'm going to point them out here in a little bit. Why you're not exactly on point.
People who were involved and make the decisions based on that. And as always, I was right.
Maybe I didn't go back far enough. 1 second.
Who was right and who was wrong. They were going to look at the skin.
Yeah, no, it's not about who's right or who's wrong. It's about the end result. One individual took it too far, possibly as an outcropping or chasm or whatever that word I need right there is, as a external result of the internal problem that is plaguing the black community with a violent subculture in y'all's specific community of the American culture.
In color of the people who were involved and make the decisions based on that. And as always, I was right.
Again, half right. Not everyone did that. And to some extent, you just did it yourself. Just to kind of point that out. Not quite hypocrite, but you're on the very same lines. But let's see what you guys have to say. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm jumping the gun on this.
I mean, the thing is, this wasn't, unless some evidence comes out showing that the black girl did this specifically because the girl was white, I see no reason to put race into it. And
I already did, because the result is an outcropping of the culture that the black race tends to adopt. That's why people are putting race into it, and that's why I can put race to it. I'm not saying it was racially motivated, but the culture that predominates a section of the black community is, I believe, a result of that very culture.
I actually apply this to every violent encounter. I did it with somebody brought up, oh, well, how'd you feel about Derek Chauvin? You can't find a single tweet from me saying that Chauvin was racist, because I don't know if he was racist or not. I just know that what he did was wrong, and that's all I care about, especially as an agent of the government.
I don't know who that is. I'm going to assume he's true, but that there was the correct stance. You need to go back and wait till there's evidence. You can't just make assumptions. You always need to protect yourself whenever you're speaking or a public speaker, or even just on Facebook or Twitter or something. You always need to take a libertarian stance, even if you have a Democratic or Republican point of view or opinion. Like, that's fine, but you need to wait until facts and figures and things come out so you can have that opinion, let's say it's a conservative point or whatever, so you can have that opinion reinforced, and then you can start eliminating the libertarian or Democratic stances. But initially, no matter what, you should always take a middle ground stance saying, I don't know anything. I don't know. Until something comes out. Then you'd be like, I don't know. No, now I know. Because of blah, 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 blah. Like, that's essentially what everybody needs to do under all kinds of circumstances like this.
I do this with all police encounters. Unless there's actually a reason to believe that race was a factor in those specific instances, then I don't really go there. I focus on the statism. I focus on the tyranny. I focus on the fact that a government official is abusing their authority. I do the same thing when it comes to civilians. So to me, there was no reason for people on the right, because this time it was on the right, and I'll get to what the left does in a second, because that kind of figures into this. But people on
Interesting wording there. Probably just a slip, probably because I'm overanalyzing, just to clarify. But he implied that people on the right were the issue, but that on this particular instance of the fight, it's only the right that are creating the issue. People on the left do things, but not this time. That's what he basically just implied with that sentence. Go back and hear it again. You'll hear him imply that. Watch.
was on the right,
listen.
and I'll get to what the left does in a second. For me, there was no reason for people on the right, because this time it was on the right, and I'll get to what the left does in a second, because that kind of figures into this. But people on the right were making this sound like this was a black issue versus a white issue. And to me, this doesn't make sense, because there's no evidence that the race was really even relevant. Now, there were some people who suggested to me that these influencers are bringing up the racial angle because of how the left does the opposite when the races are reversed. And this was designed to criticize the left. Now,
just to throw it out there to some extent, I'm willing to bet that's true, but I don't think a bunch of people were like, the majority, for an example, were saying like, haha, we got him now we can show them a reverse example. Like, I don't think the majority of people are thinking along those lines. Some are, for sure. Statistically, probably, I don't know. But, man, it's a little bit of a stretch.
that's a damn lie, and you know it. That's not why they're bringing up race in this fight and in others that we've seen. That is not the reason why. Here's how I know.
Agree.
They could just criticize what the media does directly. You can just call out the media for only caring when a white person assaults a black person, or if a white gunman walks into a grocery store full of black people and opens fire. You can criticize them directly for only focusing on that, and while not focusing on all tragic instances like this. And some do, and I have no problem with it. But doing the exact same thing that you accuse the left of doing is not the right way to protest what the left is doing. These people aren't stupid. I give them too much credit. I don't believe for a second that they're actually dumb enough to believe that putting race into a situation when it's a black person, when it has nothing to do with it, is somehow a protest against what the left is doing.
No, because it's not a protest. What they're doing is fighting fire with fire. It's called a backdraft. Okay, sometimes you need to fight fire with fire. So since the left, the Democrats typically, will drum up narratives that have nothing to do with race, and then push that story out to like the media and stuff, which, you know, trying to win votes and blah, 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 blah. It's a game of politics. The right, until recently, were essentially above that. And basically now they're like, we're no longer above it. So now we're going to use the same type of ammunition against our opponent that they have been using against me. So an example of this, a made-up example, would be if I'm in a political race, like let's say Donald Trump and not Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton, that'd be more closer to a realistic example. Let's say Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton are doing a political race. They're running for president. And Donald Trump is the only one slinging mud. He's the only one throwing out insults and putting verbal jabs in and of that nature. And Hillary initially thinks she's above it, but then she starts to lose in the polls or something and realizes it's being effective. So then she goes and now starts attacking Donald Trump verbally and throwing in verbal jabs and stuff. You know, like, this man doesn't pay his taxes. Or whatever, you know, whatever kind of thing she would say.
No, you're not that dumb. You know what you're doing. It's the same thing as when a lot of these influencers push this black man bad porn on social media. That's what I call it, when they put videos of...
Okay, I was going to say, I didn't know what that was. So this is his own terminology. What do you call it? Like Batman black porn or something like that? What do you say? Badman? Something?
You're not that dumb. You know what you're doing. It's the same thing as when a lot of these influencers push this black man bad porn.
Okay, black man bad porn. I'm pretty sure is what he said there. From my understanding, they all have horse cocks, and they're actually quite a popular genre. So I'm interested to see what he has to say on this particular topic now. I mean, I'm intrigued. He's pulling me in, like a white guy good porn.
on social media. That's what I call it, when they put videos of black people fighting with each other, and they don't ever put up videos of people who are white fighting with each other. And yes, those do exist. I have seen them. But that's the thing. The idea isn't to solve a problem. It's to push a narrative. And unfortunately, the right is no better than the left when it comes to racializing these issues.
I would almost 100% agree with that. I would say we are a little better in the fact that I mentioned earlier, we only recently started to do it because we have realized the effectiveness of it. So we were better. Now we're about equal. We still don't do it at the same rate. And we tend to take a lot more of a hesitant stance before we overcommit to whatever happened, George Floyd or this instance or Trayvon Martin or all the other things that happened. The football stadium shooter and all that kind of stuff, right? We tend to take a step back. We're more likely to take a step back. But not everybody, not always, and there always gonna have people that pounce is the term I've heard. Again, generally, I would say we are a little bit better at it, or worse, depending on how you want to look at it, than the other side. But we are also guilty of it. That is true, black and white, for sure.
Not in 2024. Not over the past decade, no. They have become the left. Two sides of the same dumbass coin. See, the thing is, the reason why the right and left do this is not because they want to solve a problem or say, oh, you know what, we got to do something about this violence. Their objective is to smear a group of people as being a certain way. On the left,
Again, no. Conservatives are not trying to smear a group of people. People like me who actually understand the issues and can articulate it a little bit better. We are condemning the negative and violent culture that a small group of individuals have embraced and are making a part of their daily lives, which directly contradicts American culture and values about peace and harmony, melting pot. Culture is there to be shared with everyone who wants to participate in things like that. If it's a culture worth sharing, not all cultures are worth sharing, just to clarify. And as I also mentioned in my X account, Twitter feed, whatever it was. I forgot. We're going to keep going. I forgot what I mentioned, but it was a good point.
They want to smear all white people or most white people as being racist bigots. That's just, they do. We know that that's what they do.
Right, I missed who they are. Let me go back a little bit.
White people or most white...
not far enough again.
Solve a problem or say, oh, you know what, we got to do something about this violence. Their objective is to smear a group of people as being a certain way. On the left, they want to...
Yeah, that's, by the way, the word you're looking for there is called stereotypes. And stereotypes are based in truth, which is why stereotypes exist. Just to throw it out there.
Smear all white people or most white people as being racist bigots. That's just, they do. We know that that's what they do. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't certain cases where they have legitimate points. But by and large, when it comes to the chattering class, when it comes to the influencers, the politicians, they're not doing that because they actually care about racism. They love racism because they can use it as a weapon.
I would also, in general, agree with that. It's called job security, which is why the new Trump movement is so important. Because it's about getting rid of all the warmongers and the swamp and putting people that share values like me and Charles here to represent us. Instead of people that are using race and other issues as fire starters, snake in the grass, warmongering politicians.
To them, racism is not a problem to be solved. It's a weapon to be used. But on the right side of the coin, you have these influencers. I'm not going to name their names. You already know who they are. Come on.
Well, then say their names. Either man up and do it, or just say, out of respect or whatever, I'm not gonna say their names because I'm not trying to create any beef because I'm a vegetarian, or whatever. Either if everybody already knows who they are, I don't know who they are. So what am I, nobody? Because I don't fall in the category of everybody. I'm just kidding. But you should say who they are.
they use these videos to portray black people as violent. Now, there's a few reasons for that. They want to portray black people as violent because they think that it somehow debunks the idea that racism has an impact on the black community and on Hispanics and other people too.
I'm a little confused by that statement, but if I understand it correctly, I have not heard one person ever claim anything that he just said that people claim. Like, obviously we run in slightly different circles, so maybe he needs like a different and or better friend group. But I've never heard anybody say anything close to that. That violence, what did you even say? That violence is or is not an outcropping of slavery or something?
Black people as violent because they think that it somehow debunks the idea that racism has an impact on the
I think what he's implying is that the violence of I think what he's implying is that the violence of black people is part of their DNA makeup, and thus was there before slavery even existed. American slavery, obviously, slavery has existed for thousands of years. I think is what he's saying there. Which anybody who's done any kind of not anthropomorphic, what is it called? Human studies, anthropology. So anybody who's done an taken an anthropology class, you know that humans have certain traits. Humans as a species are a violent species. That's why we became the dominant species on the planet and created things like firearms, just because we're violent in general. So assuming I understood that correct, again, I haven't heard anybody make that kind of claim. That's a ridiculous claim. I don't have anybody like that in my friend circle. And if I did, they wouldn't be in my friend circle very long. I'll try a little bit to convince them otherwise, but if I couldn't, I can just tell that they were, like a psychopath or whatever. I don't want to be friends with you anymore. You can go over there and have whatever theories you have about black people and violence and slavery. It's not reality, so pass.
Black community and on Hispanics and other people too. They portray this world in which the only racism that exists is against white people. That's not the case. Now,
again, I don't know a single person who says that racism is only against white people, or that only well, I've seen a couple people that say black people can't be racist or something, which we all know is a lie. They're just naive, doing it for clips or something, or they're just dumb. I don't know. All I do is work here. Wait, where am I? But it is, it is what it is. I'm going a little bit off the rails here, guy. I think this is definitely the pundit part. This is definitely where his opinion is coming in here.
Against white people, that's not the case. Now, I'm not saying that there isn't anti-white sentiment coming from the left. We've got those Robin DiAngelo types and the others.
Okay, cool. So he does acknowledge that there is some racism towards white. That's good. I can accept that as long as you just agree that there's not zero. But here's a question I would have though. Do you think that minus the population differences? So obviously, roughly 70% of the United States is white, with the other 30% being black and Mexican and all the other ones. So if you were to eliminate the number difference, which would skew the statistics, say like closer to an individual basis, do you think that there is more black on white racism or white on black racism? Let me know what you guys think down in the comments, by the way. And if you're enjoying this, like, subscribe, and give a thumbs up. Don't forget to check out Charlie here. Or Jeff, what's his name? Jeff Charles. Don't forget to check out Charlie here. And give him a subscribe, like, thumbs up, and let him know you saw him because of me.
So that's a thing. But
Good.
To me,
I'm glad we agree.
It's just another way to divide. So, as usual, I'm pointing out the hypocrisy. People on both sides are hypocritical when it comes to this, and you can just
I would agree. Not just this, but this type of thing, because they don't analyze and self-analyze and think about their thinking very well.
Tell that again, people aren't looking at this through the lens of right and wrong. They're looking at it through the lens of black and white. I had a guy who I'm acquainted with. He follows me. I think I follow him too. And he tried to call me out for even just saying anything negative about what the black girl did. But he only cares about the skin color. He doesn't care about right or wrong. He just cares about, if it's a black person, you never say anything against them. which is some of the dumbest shit I've ever heard. I'm sorry, it is. I love the guy, but that is really stupid. Because
And if I understood him correctly, that's also incredibly biased. That whoever that is not a good source of information, if that's their true stance.
you'll criticize white people for if they do something like that, or you'll accuse them of doing it as if it's a bad thing. Well, obviously you don't think it's a bad thing because you're doing the same thing. But here's what I really want to get into. Another reason why influencers inject racism or race into situations where it probably isn't present, again, it's not because they want to solve a problem. It's because using race is the best way in America to get people to be emotional. And when people are emotional, they are not rational, and they are much easier to manipulate. It is much easier to divide by using emotion.
With just his main point so far, I'm 100. So far, I'm 100% on board. You see, maybe 99%. You know, if questioned, I might have to reflect and think about something and modify it. But as of right now, I'm right about 99 to 100% agreeing so far.
Making us fear each other, be angry at each other, hate each other. Now we know Master Yoda brought down some wisdom. He says, you know, fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate.
Technically, he didn't drop that off. That's the Jedi tenets of how to avoid the dark side. He just reiterated lessons that he himself got taught. He may have helped invent them, but he didn't necessarily drop the wisdom. As far as I know, the Jedi Order existed before Yoda showed up. So,
hate, and hate leads to suffering. That little green guy had some good points because the suffering is next.
Did you just assume his gender? He's an alien. You don't know his sex. We don't even know. He's a single species. Nobody even knows where he's from. Until Baby Yoda showed up, nobody even knew what the female of a species looks like. For all we know, he's a hermaphrodite. You can't be applying human things onto aliens. I kid. Relax. He's a made-up character. It doesn't matter. But let's go ahead and say about this little green guy.
See, right now, the elites and the government, they're trying to make us hate each other. And everybody who is involved with pushing the authoritarian system that they want to have, whether it's from the right or the left. Take your pick.
You don't think the libertarians, by the way, have an authoritative system? I assure you they do. That's the one you're defending because you like it the best. Just like how you mentioned how that one guy won't talk bad about black people. Well, I'm curious. I haven't actually done my research, so I don't know. But do you talk bad about the downsides of libertarianism? Or do you think it's all sunshine and peaches?
By using race, they get us into a frenzy where we're not thinking straight. And we focus on people who are not really our enemies. Yeah, maybe we have disagreements with them. Maybe we don't even like some other people. But they're not really our enemies. See, the thing is, what they want to do is divide us and make you hate people or dislike people who have a different skin color. Or
again, just to re-emphasize for the 86th time, not people is my objective, the culture. The culture that is anti-police, anti-education, prone violence, so forth, so on. That's the culture I'm trying to snuff out. An extension of culture adopted from the whites in England. We won't go into that though. But of the more prevalent and more recent gangster rap and that kind of mentality. That culture that dominated the white community. Now we have our problems with the CIA or whatever, distributing crack and things like that. But it's the culture in particular which I am trying to counter, not the people. I don't even care about individuals or people in general. I do care about people in general. I just don't care about the individuals. It's the culture we're going after. I'm going after. I don't know about everybody else. But I don't even see color or race, so I can't even tell them apart. Like, the only reason I know he's black is because he told me he was black. Like, you know, like everything in here is either black or white. He lives in a Yingling lifestyle, so.
Dislike people who have a different skin color or different political beliefs or different ways of life. When in reality, they are not your enemy. The thing is,
in general, I would agree.
We have to keep our eyes on the ball. Don't let them...
What's the ball, though? Can you tell me what the ball is so I know how to keep my eyes on it and what I should keep my eye on?
Do this to you. Do not fall for it. I'm telling you, don't fall for it. Your enemy isn't black people or white people or Hispanic people. Your enemy is not the right or the left.
I think he's about to tell us what the ball is. I might get my wish come true. Tell me what the ball is. We're so close.
Per se. Your enemy is not the LGBTQ community or straight people.
It kind of is, but...
Keep your eye on the ball. Who's the enemy? The enemy is the government and the elites who control it.
Okay, wait a minute. So, couldn't there be elites in the transgender and LGBTQ whatever community that would also want to control you for their own nefarious purposes? I think so. And to say that those kind of people don't have them would be quite the leap of logic, and one would need to explain that to me. Because I know a saying, I don't remember who says it, but power tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So regardless if you're part of the gay community or the Biden administration, if you have absolute power, you're going to use it and try and do everything you can to maintain that power, even if it means doing some slightly nefarious or highly nefarious things.
The people who want to enrich themselves at our expense. The people who want to solidify their positions of power over us so that they can more effectively rule over us and continue to grow their own power and wealth and prestige. They do it all the time, and honestly, they are very good at it. And I can go down that rabbit hole. I've done it many times. I won't do that on this video, but I will be doing other videos about it. But realistically, this whole situation in Missouri, it's tragic on its own. Like, it's...
Concur. It shouldn't have happened. I think both parties should have walked away when able. Because clearly one of them couldn't walk away afterwards.
Disturbing on its own, but the way it's being used is part of a much deeper agenda, and we need to be thinking deeper about these issues, especially...
I am. That's why I brought up culture 86,000 times. Get me on your show. I'll promise you we will have a conversation. That would be that clickbait worthy, maybe? Not clickbait, but that'll be... We'll do some magic. We'll do some magic. Keep it simple.
Especially as people who love liberty.
Call me Phil. Magic Phil. Johnson's been taken, so Magic Phil.
And want to see a freer society in which the government is not as involved in our lives as it is right now.
Yeah, that's one of those points that him as a libertarian and me as a non-voting conservative would in general agree on. I want a small government that minds its own business and stays out of mine. Stop manipulating the news and other things for your own personal agendas. Your job is to make sure that the firefighters are there, the police are there, which actually I think are technically state jobs, and that the military, regardless of the branch, is up to snuff, operating at absolute peak efficiency at all times, 24/7, 366 on the days that there are leap years, let alone 365 on days without leap years. That's basically the only thing government should be do. There's a couple other things that they did that I enjoyed, just hindsight 2020, where, like, for an example, during the colony days or very short thereafter, there were extremely high taxes between, like, say, New York and Pennsylvania. I'm making stuff up, but there were high tax rates between New York and Pennsylvania. So for an example, let's say New York was producing wine and Pennsylvania was producing wine, and Pennsylvania wanted to ship to sell some of their product in New York. New York would basically put like a 50% tax on them or whatever to make their wine super expensive. So basically, it's a little bit anti-capitalism, but the government actually came in and basically said, like, no, there's no more taxing between states. We're a one people, we're one nation. We're not doing this anymore. So that was one of the rare times when the government got into capitalism, got involved in capitalism, but actually made changes for the better, because what they were promoting was free and open trade, not heavily taxing your rivals to manipulate things. Like, so in general though, stay all the way over there, make sure the army is paid, and make sure we're not getting attacked by, like, China, Russia, Iran, Afghanistan, Iraq, and all the other people that don't like America for whatever reasons they would like to cite.
So that would be the takeaway I'd want the guys to get from this. Yes, this didn't really have to do with race. I mean, now if some evidence comes out that it did,
cool, we'll both amend our statements, I'm sure.
Then I'll change my mind on just that one spot.
Correct. Just tweak just a little bit. But everything else true about the violence, being able to walk away, not participating, when you beat your opponent, back off, like those would all still be applicable. The girl would just be a proven racist. Or the other girl, maybe. Like, if something like that were to come out about race, specifically about race. That's the only thing that would change. Is that she did it with racist intent, and regardless, the other girl shouldn't have participated. Doesn't matter who's who in that scenario.
Everything else I said is still true.
Yeah.
Your influencers are still using this to divide and to manipulate you. And they're not doing it because they have your best interests at heart. They're doing it for clout, clicks, and cash. They benefit from your hatred of your fellow Americans.
There it is, Americans. Thank you, American culture. And those who do not embrace American culture, American society, American ways of life, and American values, and embrace a culture that is separate from that, in fact, in many ways contradicts it, will create problems, i.e., one reason why people are looking through all these kind of things through the lens of race. Partially triggered by Obama, but I won't go into that. Those of you that know. See, Jeff? I can do it too. I can be super vague.
I'm dead serious. They do. They benefit from it. And they don't care about what happens to the country. They don't care about what happens to American society. They care about their pocketbooks. They care about their follower count. They care about the impressions that they get on social media. Stop falling for it. Please stop falling for it. All right. Well, that's it for today. I'll probably have another video coming out about some other stuff. I got some other stuff on my mind. But in the meantime, do what I said. Subscribe to my Substack. Share this video. And I'll catch you on the flip side.
He should have also said in there, do as I said, subscribe to my Substack, and don't fall for it. See you on the flip side. That's what I would have done, but on the other hand, I only have like 120 followers or whatever on YouTube and like 6 on Twitter. So what do I know, right? But that's what I would have done. So that go ahead and is going to conclude this episode here on Phil Hodges Experience Culture Wars. Please, again, drop any comments down below that you think would be relevant. I'll read all of them, even if I don't respond. Although I have nothing to do right now with my life, so there's a good chance I will respond, especially if it's incendiary? No, that's not the word I want. If it's, I don't know, if it piques my interest. If I feel like it. If I think you're like super wrong or super right. I will either counter or agree, maybe some other variants of those, but yeah, that'll be that. Like I said, also don't forget to check him out. Tune in next time. Like, subscribe, give the thumbs up, along with the comments down below. Tell us your favorite part, your least favorite part. If I'm right, if you're right, do I know what I'm talking about? Does he know what he is talking about? All the things, anything, all the time, everywhere, never, all at once. So, thanks for tuning in one more time, and just going to wrap up this episode. This Phil. We'll see you in the future.